From the beginning of the war, the Hunter plant had a head start on other companies in Ontario, partly because of their two large buildings. They launched the first fair mile constructed in Canada on September 10, 1941. Hunter Boats was unique in that the company had to deliver the 112-foot fair miles through the Trent Canal system over two lift locks, one at Kirkfield and the other at Peterborough, and down through another 40 standard locks to Trenton on the Bay of Quinte in Lake Ontario. One fair mile, the Q116, did not make it through the canal as planned in the fall of 1943. The following are excerpts taken from the Toronto Telegram, December 20th, 1943. Two Orillia firefighters, Captain Elgin Jones and Lieutenant Daniel McLeish, were honored today at a special civic banquet at Carter's Grill. These men were awarded the King's Police and Fire Services Medal for outstanding bravery shown during the extinguishing of a fire following an explosion in a Fairmile subchaser that had just been built at Hunter Boat Works. The Fairmile was fully loaded with 2,300 gallons of high-octane fuel when the explosion occurred. Firefighters arrived to find the engine room a mass of flames. Captain Jones and Lieutenant McLeish, without regard for their own safety, proceeded below deck. McLeish used a fog nozzle to protect Jones from the intense fire and fumes while he entered the gasoline tank compartment and sealed up the open ends of the tanks, which had been burned off. The heroic efforts of these men contained the damage to the Fairmile and saved that section of town from a more serious fire. Soon after the Fairmile disaster, the following was received by Orillia Mayor and Council from firefighting Captain Elgin Jones.
Dear Sirs, allow me to thank you, your council, and Fire Chief Edwards for that wonderful evening at the civic banquet at Carter's Grill. Grace and I had a most enjoyable evening. To receive the King's Police and Fire Service Medal itself was overwhelming. As Lieutenant McLeish, my co-recipient, stated, we only did what any other member of the department would have done. However, I must ask you to seek another captain and allow me to retire from the brigade, which Fire Deputy Chief Al Woods called the best in Ontario. Certainly these men are the finest with whom I have ever worked. That said, the explosion on October 13th with its loss of life weighs heavily on me. I am 55 years old. This is a challenge better met by younger men like Daniel McLeish. It may help you to understand this decision by my review of the Fairmile disaster. Sadly, this vessel, O-116, was virtually constructed and was set to be commissioned that next day. The young apprentice electrician who died, Stanley Peacock, had agreed to sail with her to Trenton. Lieutenant McLeish and I were required to board this flaming wreck and go below deck to reseal the gas tanks, which were full of high-octane fuel. 6 workmen were already badly injured, 1 young man dead. The risk of a second explosion was far too great. 25 years ago, on the battlefields of Belgium, I faced the same terror. Many of my comrades died and remain to this day in ugly, muddy trenches. I, myself, was twice wounded and gassed. I left far too much of me there. When it was announced that I was to receive the King's Military Medal then, I vowed that I would gladly surrender it if I could just save one of those lives. Now, years later, in another war, the beautiful life of a 15-year-old, Stanley Peacock, has been lost. All the horror of trench warfare flooded back as I tried to scramble below deck amongst the fire. I am too old now. Things are good for me. I am a plumber by trade and employed by Bennett Construction. I've married an Orillia girl, Grace Drew, and together we are acquiring a new home at 132 Cedar Street, which will be our last. I am leaving the force, but my heart will always be there with those brave men. I am leaving you in good hands, but my job is done. Thank you for the captain rank. I will be always grateful. Leadership is difficult. In the last war as sergeant, I lost far too many young men. When I look at the photograph of Air Cadet Stanley Peacock, I relive all those terrible moments. I am confident that you will understand. Yours truly, Elgin Jones.
Elgin and his wife did move to Cedar Street. He died there on the 27th of June, 1958. Grace died on the 11th of April, 1979. They are buried together in St. Andrew St. James Cemetery, Orillia. The Gallantry Medal was recently acquired by the citizens of Orillia and is kept at the Orillia Fire Hall. This fair mile, Q116, was reconstructed, the last of 8 built by Hunter, and was launched the 10th of May, 1944. There were 80 such vessels built in Canada for coastal patrol. After the war, they were converted to a variety of uses. Some were privatized as cruise vessels, one of which sails today. Lieutenant Dan McLeish served the citizens of Orillia his entire life. He rose through the ranks, becoming chief of Orillia Fire Department in the late 1950s. His bravery medal remains with his family.